Welcome to this short video. This video is about how to catch a halibut, and this is something that a lot of people ask me. So I'm here just to let you know what I have learned over my 17-18 years of fishing here in Norway. And I'm going to start first of all with where you should start to look for halibut. There are halibut north to south, all the way down to the very south, all the way up to the very north. There are halibut, but they vary in size and numbers, obviously. The best place to target halibut, depending on your budget, I would start at mid-Norway and focus on the area between there and the top of Lofoten, okay? Obviously, the best area is northern Norway, not mid-Norway, but if you can only afford or you only have the time, I would suggest you start with mid-Norway. And Trondheim is a good example of that. There are plenty areas there. And the first tip I'm going to give you is don't go too far into the fjords. Stay as close to the open sea as humanly possible. Now, apart from that, what you're looking for is the ground. In the beginning, I was targeting hyper deep areas. It is possible to catch them there, but it's not the best place to start, actually. The best place to start is shallow water next to deep water. Not necessarily hyper deep water like 300 meters, but 30, 40, 60, 70 meters, close to anywhere between 15 and 5 meters. And these are the areas you should be looking for, usually in an area with a bit of tide as well. And I'm going to show you now on the phone a few areas that I target. You can see the similarities in it. So this is actually the first spot I ever caught a halibut, and it's in mid-Norway, north of Trondheim. I'm not going to tell anybody these exact spots. There are a lot of areas like this in Norway, and you just need to find them and target the fish. Whether it's lures or baits, it doesn't matter. The areas are always the same. So if you look at it here, just here you will see 12 meters of water. And just here you will see 51 meters of water. And that is exactly what I'm talking about. There's a little pier right there, and that is where I was casting from into the 12 meters of water. And the fish were coming up in the night time or in the evening or in early morning, depending on which way the tide is running. Generally on a falling tide in that area, and generally on a falling tide, I catch the most halibut. And the reason for this, I believe, is less water condenses their prey and it's easier for them to catch and find it. That's it, really. So that's a fairly typical area that you might find halibut. There was a little name there in the middle. If you can find it, you're welcome to it. So I'm going to find another spot now. As I roll through these spots, you will see similarity in them all. The common denominator here is deep water next to shallow. I have never caught a halibut in deep water, not ever. So I will draw your attention to this water here. It's 54 meters, right? And this was the spot I was fishing, that pier there. And underneath it there is 15 meters of water running all the way up to, at the edge of the pier, 9 meters. And once again, shallow water next to deep water. It's always the same. And I will move on to some more. So you can see the pier there, and you can see down here, we got 59 meters of water. And I was catching those fish in just 12 meters of water. That's all it was. It's nearly always the same. Here's a different kind of example. This isn't a big area, it was a small area. It was a headland that went out into the water, and it created a saddle. And this condensed the water and pushed the bait up and down and over. And the halibut used to wait on the downtide side of it. Target them at low water. As the bait were swept over this saddle and into the deeper water, the halibut were waiting right on the edge of it. And this is the area I'm talking about here, right? You can see the high point and you can see the dip in the middle. And the halibut were waiting just down there for the bait fish as they came over the saddle. And I'm just going to give you one more example so you can see what I'm talking about. It is always the same. It's always deep water next to shallow. I don't know anything about boat angling. Maybe it's different for boat anglers. I wouldn't imagine it is. The same areas would be targeted out at sea. Maybe the water depth is a little bit different, but the same areas will apply either way. It'll be a sandbank, a reef, or whatever. But it will be shallow water next to deep. A lot of the boat veterans will know this place anyway. So there's a little tip for you there, right? Once again, we got the deep water right here, all the way out to 60 meters. And they're getting the halibut in around this 29, 12 meters. Not far casts at all. So the areas are nearly always the same. And now I'm going to talk about where you should cast or where you should put a bait or whatever. Distance is not something that really should concern you. I've picked up fish in areas between 80 and more or less 0 right at your feet. Something the halibut love to do is to mooch around the edge of rocks and piers looking for green shore crabs. It's one of their favorite things to eat, and that's where you're going to find them. There's so many times I've picked a halibut up at the bottom of a pier using a jig or just casting a bait out 30 or 40 meters. If you put the time in, you're going to start to recognize the telltale signs of the areas that you should be targeting. Now I'm going to give you just a few simple tips that will help you be more successful, and one of them is a lure. Okay, what I like in lures for halibut is UV reactive lures, right? And I like the color orange. It could be green either, but I like the bodies to be green and as much orange on them as you can get, but they have to be realistic. One of halibut's favorite food sources is the greater sand eel, and I try to mimic that in every lure that I use to catch a halibut. They love them, they recognize them, they hunt them just as much as they do green shore crabs. And this lure here is almost 30 centimeters long, and I have these in different weights and sizes. I have a video on it. I will link that in the description if you would like to delve deeper into the lure side of halibut fishing. As far as baits are concerned, you can use what I use. A lot of people probably wouldn't want to fish that way because a lot of people enjoy the tackle that they know and trust, like a pulley rig. Pulley rig is a great rig, but the way I like to fish is to get that bait out there and keep it fishing for as long as possible. And the pulley rig simply just can't support a bait like that. It would have to be about this long and this thick, and it's just not going to cast very well. So instead I just use the South African rig, and I will link that rig build in the description as well. Whether you know this or not, it is a fact about halibut fishing. They have extremely tough mouths, extremely tough. So you have to make sure that your hooks are as sharp as possible. The hook on this, and it's not a recommendation for a hook, I would just say that this is a very heavy gauge hook, and it needs to be very, very sharp to penetrate the mouth of the fish. When you get them, whether it's out of a packet or wherever you get them, there's one thing you should do, because they get banged and they get knocked around the place, and sometimes a hook will feel extremely sharp, and this is because the end has been turned down and it's like a little tiny hook, and it catches your finger so easily, and it will make the lure feel like it's sharp, when in actual fact, as soon as that hits the fish's mouth, it will just bend further and you probably won't hook up. So before and multiple times during a session, I will use a diamond stone just to make sure that the hooks are as sharp as possible. And you can get these on any website these days, Chinese website. And it's just a simple matter of touching up the hooks. That's it. And making them absolutely razor pointy. Yes, it's a new term, razor pointy. I like to, if I can, sharpen all sides and make it square. A square point penetrates hard surfaces more easily than a round one, because it spreads the tissue or the material apart very easily. So that's the way I like to sharpen the hooks. There's no way I can just show you, but I sharpen all four sides of the hook until it is absolutely razor pointy. And the way I test these is I get my nail, and if I can do this, I deem this hook sharp enough to fish for halibut. Most other fish, you'll have absolutely no trouble with them, cod or whatever. They don't have as tough mouths as halibut. They have really tough mouths, and you'll discover this when you try to get the hook out. A lot of the time they won't even let go of the jig. They're very aggressive animals. So have I got any more tips for halibut? So the best time to target halibut is in November into December. This is the pre-spawn period. After a certain point in December, it's illegal to fish for them. I'm going to link the Norwegian Fisheries Board details in the description. You can go in there and check it out yourself. There's minimum sizes and spawning periods where you shouldn't be targeting fish. Catching a fish that's oversized from the shore is not a problem that you will come across, but the minimum size is right now, whenever this video is posted. Just have a look at the date it was, and if it's not the same year, check it out, okay, because you could get in trouble for this. It's 84 centimeters right now. A lot of those fish I'll put back. If I catch one that's a little bit bigger, I'll usually just take that one instead, because I think 84 is a little bit small. But if it's injured or it's going to die, I will obviously keep that fish, because there's no sense in putting back an animal that's going to die and rot to be eaten by the crabs. So I'm Billy. This is Billy with a few helpful tips. Wherever you are in the world, remember, get your hooks into a halibut. Bye.